beautiful and wonderful people. Welcome to the Conte Show broadcast by Visual TV in the Dubai studios. I'm your host, Alessandro Conte, and today's guest is coming from a very beautiful land. Yes, the city of Casablanca, Marrakesh. Camels, a lot of entertainment, beautiful beaches, couscous food, all the way from Morocco. Please welcome to the show, Amine Belarbi. Yes, woo! And welcome back, my beautiful and wonderful people. We're sitting with Amine. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming.
You're making me blush, man, for like that big of an introduction.
Thank you very much. No, I mean, come on, you deserve it.
Thank you.
You've been all over the place. You do have many projects, but okay, you need to introduce yourself. Tell us, I mean, who are you? And for those people that they still don't know you, who's Amine Belarbi? What are you doing? And how long have you been in Dubai?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me first. A wonderful studio, lovely show. I've been like seeing some of the previous episodes, so it's quite an honor to be here.
Thank you.
And the good thing is I've known you for quite a while.
Yes.
So seeing that progress and, you know, like from the early vlogs to full-on studio is quite a progress. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much and welcome. The honor is mine to have you here.
Thank you. So my name is actually Mohammed Amine Belarbi, but like I go by Amine because there's so many Mohammeds out there.
That's the nickname.
Right.
You know.
I'm from Morocco, but I left Morocco around 16. I did my boarding school in Norway. And after that, I attended New York University, which was kind of like the reason I came to the UAE. I chose to go to the Abu Dhabi campus as opposed to the New York campus, which was not a very popular choice with my parents. But for me, that was the place to be, given how the UAE was really on the move. They're very, you know, like tech-friendly, entrepreneur-friendly. And just the energy is something you need kind of like to grow with the country, something that I didn't feel like I could do in the US. So being here allowed me to pretty much like start a couple of companies in the tech space, in cybersecurity. In my last year of university, that was 2016. I started my second company in entertainment and influencers 2 years ago. The platform is called High. And then a year and a half ago, I started another cybersecurity company, this time focused on R&D and research and development. And we're lucky to have clients all over the world, public companies in the US, in Morocco, in Europe. And we recently just got like a deal. We were one of the very lucky startups in the world to, win a huge agreement with Geo Networks. It's the largest data center provider in Latin America.
Wow.
So they chose us as a startup, and we're competing with big brand names. So we're happy to be, where we are.
Congratulations. You also, I mean, we met when you started Hala High at that time. I remember Hala High for you guys that you don't know. It's a company that you basically get, you have a variety of artists and influencers, media people, and they can like cameo, right? They can get you can get your, if you want, you have a birthday and you want to surprise someone, then you can get that special video for that special date. And now you're expanding it to some new things, new activities.
Exactly. So we have like some very exciting new features coming up. Besides the fan shoutouts, we have the brand shoutouts. So that's also commercial brands can request these promotional videos. We have things that are coming up such as the physical bookings for live events and so on. A lot of these features are very exciting, but we're keeping them secret because we want to launch them with the brand.
And they can follow, right? There is an Instagram account that we will be showing it here at Hala High, right? Hala
High official, yeah.
Okay, official. And then also your Instagram account. If you want to ask something, he doesn't buy, just food. No, I'm kidding. Technology.
Right.
Your Instagram account, which is at
Amine Belarbi.
Amine Belarbi, and it will be showing here as well. Tell me, because you said that right after Morocco, you went to Norway. How was that change for you? How did you feel? Because I believe it was a big change, especially being so young. I mean, 16 years old, child, basically.
I mean, like the first change is obviously a thermal change.
Yes,
because you're going from like 28, 30 degrees to minus. Like I think it got like as bad as minus 32 at some point in December. So we were freezing.
Wow.
But like I think besides the temperature and the landscape, it's really the cultural change.
The cultural change,
right?
Yes.
Because Scandinavia in general is known for being super liberal.
Yes.
And then you come from a country that is somewhat traditional, somewhat conservative, like Morocco. So there's a lot that you have to adapt to, which is good because that's usually people grow through shocks. Like if you're put in an adverse environment, in a new environment, you have to adapt, you have to learn new skills, you have
Correct.
to learn new techniques and new behaviors. And especially at that young age, that helped me become independent very quick.
Yes.
I was lucky enough as well to be in a campus where we were 200 students from 112 nationalities.
Wow. So we're like in a mini world.
Exactly. So it's like almost a United Nations over there.
Exactly.
And that kind of helps you, become like more in terms of critical thinking, more open to these things. You're easily adaptable to new cultures. You don't judge. You don't stereotype. All those questions that you had, you get to ask them to people, right? Especially people that you used to see as enemies or like as coming from like a different culture, an opposing culture. So all of those barriers kind of start falling down because you can put finally a face to that culture or to that religion or to that country.
Because you actually have the person right in front of you, and you start like seeing like, oh my God, I didn't know they do this, and they like this type of food, and and probably we have in common that we watch the same, I don't know, TV shows or. Right, and that's actually like really when I came here as well for the first time. I was that was almost 7 years ago, back in January of 2015, and for me still it was also a new thing because I was moving from a South American country, and 30 hours flight, 2 days like to reach here, and then when I landed here, it was like wow, so shocking.
Yeah,
I used to work for hospitality industry at the time, and people. I mean, as you mentioned, people from all over the world, and sometimes probably we were on a table, we were sharing some food, and then, I don't know, just saying something like someone putting milk like on, I don't know, spinach, and I'm like, oh, what's that? But I was always like asking, so why do you do this, and why do you do that? And I mean, we get the chance to learn so much, to grow, to develop as people, and that gives us a different insight from life itself. Right?
Yeah. And these are beautiful experiments as well for those people who doubt. There's people from different backgrounds and like different, like personalities or like religions or cultures can coexist. Yeah. Because I lived in a campus with 112 nationality, and we had like the greatest time ever. We live in a country that has, also over probably 100 nationality, and we have like a great time. So, that kind of goes counterintuitive to that like thinking, especially in traditional societies where we can't coexist with like, all this diversity because we will clash. We have different perspectives on life. We have different perspectives on religion. But no, here is a successful example.
Yes.
And if we can do it here, I'm sure we can replicate it elsewhere.
Correct. Young people striving for the best and trying to, and if we set aside countries, we set aside religion, we set aside everything because we're all under the same roof, under the same flag, which is United Arab Emirates, and we praise the leaders, we praise the people here that they've been doing so good and great. It's an example, a worldwide example. And even for us, we're growing as we were, chatting off cameras. We're growing with the country and the country within us as well. Somehow, because there is an influence. I mean, we think there's nothing, but yes, there is an influence when living here, culturally speaking, right? And tell us a little bit more about all of this. How did you feel when you started to, all these companies? What happened? You said, okay, one day you said, I'm going to start this, or how? Because so young and so accomplished, which is amazing, and you kind of people, they feel encouraged. So tell us, how was that process?
So a lot of people, when they see my story, especially when they saw me on the cover of Forbes magazine back in, I believe, 2019. They think that this is a kid.
I saw that cover, by the way, yes.
So people think that just like, out of nowhere, I started a company that became successful. But what they don't realize is like years and years before that, I was taking small steps that led me to that moment.
Right.
Steps that are insignificant when you take them, but in retrospect, make a lot of difference over the years.
Exactly.
And I told you off screen, but I'll say it again here. The smallest project I ever started was when I was in high school. And I was always looking for new opportunities to go to conferences or to gain scholarships because that was my only way of traveling the world because I didn't have the money to pay for tickets and conferences. Correct. So I would, apply for a competition here or a conference there. And then if I get in, I fly into that country and I enjoy the Exactly. So instead of looking for these opportunities all the time, I decided why not creating a Facebook group and inviting my other high school friends so we can co-share. Whenever you come across an opportunity, please share it. So it might help others. It started with 27 members. Today, we are over 120,000 international student members, every day posting tons and tons of opportunities. And even when I travel these days to different conferences, I meet people who are at that conference because they knew about it from that group.
Exactly.
So
it facilitates the
exactly.
information.
So that kind of started building in me the seed that if you find a problem, just come up with like a small solution that adds value. And if it helps you and it helps others, it can help a lot more as it scales. So it's just taking that step of initiating something. And I started a Facebook group that became like a hit. I also started an online magazine just for fun because I like to write online. You know, I like to blog.
So and you never know what it will take you, right? And
literally because of that magazine, it was Golf Elite, which I launched in the UAE. We had around like 50,000 readers a month. Through it, I managed to interview famous business people, interviewed royalty, I interviewed sports and athletes, personalities. And that was my gateway to build my network.
Correct.
In the country.
To build a network.
Which later helped me with my future businesses.
Exactly.
So everything is like, you know, piece of a puzzle that keeps on, you know, like fitting here and there until you see the big picture and you're actually making a beautiful art piece. And that's kind of your journey and career. And obviously my biggest kind of like in the news was Vol9, the cybersecurity company I created in my last year of university. Now, the reason I did is not because I knew about cybersecurity. My background is finance. I don't know how to code. I have no understanding how these things work. Right. I just happened to be in a conference where I met a hacker, an ethical hacker from Morocco.
Wow.
So I started asking him, what do you do? And he said, well, we hack companies like, you know, Facebook, Microsoft, and Google who find vulnerabilities. We tell them about these things and they pay us a bonus or a bounty.
Correct.
And I said, well, if you can do this for Facebook, couldn't you do this for big companies in the UAE? He said, well, for sure, I could do it. So I gave him a list of big brands. And I told him, can you look into these?
Okay.
The next day he comes back to me and says, yeah, like for this brand, we managed to access their entire customer database. For this one, we were able to transfer points from account to account. For this one, we can shut down or make a transaction. These were like very big issues.
Wow.
So I went and I spoke to these brands. They said, well, this is amazing. We'd love to pay you to help us find these things and fix it. And like literally in a matter of a month from meeting the person, we launched the company. And we started getting like our first clients.
One person takes you to the other. Exactly. And again, one action will lead you to the other and to the other and to the other. And I think, I mean, similar, I actually identify many of these stories with, you know, my own stories because probably you have no idea of, I mean, you think about something and then you look at, you know what, let me just, baby steps. I start interviewing my own toys.
Well, there you go.
With my dad's camera. I was like Toy Story. They were like, okay, tell me, how's your day?
That's amazing.
It's not moving.
No, absolutely. Like,
I was putting the camera there since I was like 4 or 5 years old. You remember those hand cam? And I was using it and just pretending I was a TV host. And now I'm a real TV host.
There you go.
Dreams can come true as long as we really want them and we do them, and we're not seeking only, I believe, remuneration. I mean, economically speaking, but there are many other remunerations and ways. And
regardless, when you do something that you love, you do it well. And when you do something well, money follows. You know, that's like a rule.
Exactly, that's the rule.
So just don't make the money the goal. It's a byproduct. Just do something you can excel at. And the only way to excel at something is to do it with passion. Like no one kind of like wakes up, if it's a job you hate, you're not going to put in the effort.
No.
If it's something you love, as you said, like when I was speaking to you earlier, you said like, I love my job. And you can see it in your face, like you're always excited when you're in the studio. So obviously you're going to do an amazing job at it. And that will just like, you know, lead you to, you know, like excellence here and there. And money will follow for sure.
More than 150% you deliver of whatever you do, right? It's like that. What would be your advice for all those old or young fellows that they want to start and they want to do their own business, especially here in the region? What would be your advice for them as a young entrepreneur?
So usually like advice I give entrepreneurs is it's a really grueling process. It's hard. Like it takes the life out of you when you're like starting your startup or like your business.
Yes.
So you have to do it something that you're passionate about, something that you enjoy, because it's the only way you're going to take on that pain and still continue. Because some days, you know, like nothing is working, you know, like clients are not paying or the product's not working or your friends are telling you it's like, it's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
Like the only way you're going to keep at it against all these adversities, if you believe in what you're doing.
If you believe in what you're doing.
So it's the first thing. That's the first thing you have to have. The second thing is, I usually advise people is, you don't need to be technical to start a business.
Correct.
Because this is what I hear, like excuses, well, I don't know how to code. How am I going to build an app? How am I going to start a tech company?
Yeah.
Well, dude, like most of like the founders tech companies are not necessarily tech people. My
Probably
background
they
is
didn't even
finance.
know, though.
Exactly. You just have to have the right people around you, right? Because when you look at the biggest companies in the world, Tim Cook with Apple, or like Sundar Pichai with Google, or like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, a lot of these people are not like technical in their fields of operation.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
But they have managed to inspire people
Somehow
to join them,
to join
and
them.
they find the right fits for each role.
It's actually about the connections and getting to know, because a friend was saying it is better to have 1 million friends, 1 million connections, than $1 million.
Absolutely.
1 million connections you'll make.
Well, you can like
great
turn
things.
it into
Yes,
billions,
exactly.
right? It's like that's why
In
they
the
say
end,
your network is your net worth.
yes,
And I
your
was
net worth.
very, very privileged and lucky, because that network that I built in the UAE was the network that I still use to this day. Whenever I need to find new people to work with, or whenever I'm looking for customers, or whenever I'm looking for investors, I already have the network to tap in, right? So it facilitates a lot of your career, a lot of your progress over time. So make sure you have the right people behind you, and make sure you network, because they say obviously your network is your net worth. It's a very famous saying, but it's very true and
it's
very
very
real.
true, yes.
Right.
And as long as you keep up, and because with these people you can make unbelievable things, and because as I said, one person takes you to another, and that's
Absolutely.
how it goes.
Absolutely.
What would you say to I love these questions actually. What would you say to your younger self? Let's say to that Amine that was living Morocco at that time, 16 years old. What would you say to him if you would have him in front of you?
I think probably the first thing I say is like, buy some Bitcoin.
Right?
I'd be a millionaire by now.
Go for it. You're gonna be a billionaire.
Right. But I think usually like when we're young, like we stress a lot about the future and whether things will work out. And when you look back at your life, you just realize that everything happens for a reason. Everything works out ultimately. But when, like, for example, in my case, for example, whenever a friendship falls apart, or like a business falls apart, or I fall like through certain adversity, for me, like, it's the end of the world, because that's the only thing I can see in front of me. But I don't realize that, like, because of that, your life trajectory is going to change and lead you to where you are today, which for me, like, it's a blessing. I'm very happy where I am today.
Yes.
And it's only happened because of every single action that happened in the past, good or bad, at that time.
It will lead us to where we are right
exactly.
now.
So you shouldn't stress about the future. You just live the moments, things work out, you do what you have to do. Obviously, you have to put in the work and the effort. And with a bit of luck, everything just goes according to plan. So I tell them, don't stress, man, it'll be fine.
Just go with it, that things will be all right.
Right.
How do you plan for rest and self-care? What do you do on your free time here in UAE? What are your favorite spots?
I'm big on reading. I love reading.
Okay.
Especially like fiction, just to escape the world of business and work and just like live in
yes, because we all have our own world or sanctuary, as I said, where we want to go and escape there and think about something else.
Absolutely.
Right?
So I love that. I love reading a lot.
You love reading.
I'm a big Netflix addict.
Junkie there.
Exactly. Because ultimately, when I tell this to people, like you have those, for example, business people that tell you, oh man, you have to be working 24/7, no rest, no sleep. And that's actually very bad advice. If you ask around the world, most successful people actually find time for self-care, find time for good sleep,
it's
find
very
time
important,
for rest.
Self-care and rest. It will lead you to, when you're well rested, you can think, you can come up with fresh ideas.
You're more productive.
You're more productive.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, they actually realize that now with pandemic, when most of us, we were, working from home, actually the productivity changed.
Yes.
Instead of being every single day, 10, 11 hours, at the office or at your job site, and you're not delivering the best of you, actually.
Exactly.
And that also, this situation also shaped, because, it brought a lot of, troubles, but at the same time, we need to see the good side as well. Because, from every single disaster, there is always, something good coming up.
True. No, that's for sure. And like, that's the thing, man. Like, look at like the levels of burnouts these days, man. Whenever we ask our friends who are like overworked, and like, you're no good if you're burned out. Like, you can't do any work. So I'd rather like, get like an extra hour of sleep, 2 hours of sleep, and then like, operate and like produce, than just like be working at half your productivity, but like you're doing it 24/7. And you're just like, oh, I'm just like,
you're like a zombie.
A zombie, man. That's not helping anyone. That's not helping. And we need to kind of get rid of that like over glorification of work culture.
Correct.
You know, we look every day on Instagram, all these, you know, like inspirational and motivational messages and people telling you, oh man, like I'm working 24/7, like sleep is for the weak, sleep is for the dead. No, that's not the right way to go.
Smart, work smart, not hard.
Not hard, absolutely.
I
love
I
that.
go by that saying as well. I think it really changes the whole thing, the whole picture.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite? Tell me one of your favorites science fiction magazine or book or history or what do you like?
Science
what are
fiction.
You into?
There is like this amazing writer, Asimov. Look it up. He's like a scientist / philosopher.
Okay.
And kind of he writes a lot about science fiction, about the future of humanity. And it just kind of gives you an interesting perspective because a lot of the things, for example, if you look at books back in the 20s or like back in the 1800s,
Yes.
a lot of things that are discussed about the future do
Yes.
come true, right? About like, you know, like technology, about like work,
What's
about
going to
religion,
happen,
society,
yes.
what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So if we're able to kind of like just imagine what the future could look like through the eyes of these philosophers, through the eyes of these writers, there are things we can pick up on ourselves.
Totally.
That can give us ideas on where we want to go later on or what we want to work on. You have like, for example, beautiful writers. I'm blanking on the name right now, but he wrote a book about, he's an Israeli author. I'll find you the name later. But he wrote like 3 books that are very famous about first the past of humanity, the present, and the future. And it's really helpful to kind of like look back or take that a step back and look at history and humanity in the big picture. Because we're just like too involved in our day-to-day life, in the small details, you know, like getting my food and getting my work done and going to sleep
paying this and
but you actually don't like take time to look at what we have accomplished and where we are as like humanity.
And we tend to forget as humans, but kind of the new generations and new people, you know, some kind of how the world is moving. We're trying to go back to, you know, that's when you're like actually, you know, sitting alone or something, you're like, oh wait, I've done this and I've done that. But sometimes we're too busy that we don't realize what we have achieved and where we are at and all these things.
And that's very important for inspiration.
Yes.
You know, when you look at the big picture and we see where we're going as humanity, like, you know, there's this beautiful saying. They say that the future is already here. It's just not evenly spread. Because some parts of the world, we're living in the 22nd century. And some parts of the world, we're living in 17th century. So actually, the world is not homogeneous.
No.
So if you take a step back, you can actually see the future here and you can look at the past here and you can learn so many things.
Literally, you can travel.
Exactly, you can travel in time and get inspired and motivated. Because something that, and this is something I live by, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just have to look at other places that have come up with new innovations. Take that and take it to a market or to a country, to a place that doesn't have that technology. Localize it. And we obviously have successful examples like, you know, the Careem and the Souk.com.
Yes.
But that applies everywhere in the world. It's not only the UAE.
Yeah.
You could go like literally right now, go to Uganda or travel to Vietnam and maybe create like the Uber of those countries or like the Amazons of those countries.
Correct.
So we just need to always have that like drive to build something. Innovation is overrated. There's plenty of innovation now, and the best artists usually copy anyway. So you just find what works and take it somewhere that doesn't exist. And I think it's a great recipe for success.
Yeah, because it's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're like, oh, I invented something.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
It is about inspiration and taking it from different sides. Right? That's how it works. Thank you very much, Amine. Thank you for the inspirational talk.
Thank
you for coming. Me. It was a pleasure. Again, such an accomplished young man.
Thank you.
And it is always a pleasure to have amazing people as you. Thank you again. You know, the Conte Show is your home.
Thank you so much for having
me. You're welcome.
Thank you for being such a wonderful host. And I'm looking forward to the next episodes as well.
Yes, you know, of course we will. Thank you, my beautiful and wonderful people, for always supporting us, for watching. And don't forget to enjoy and to follow us. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day ahead. Ciao.